Hi, everybody. It's Dr. Vanessa from Brio Integrative Health Clinic in Richmond, and today's live is on three antioxidants that I think everybody should know about. Specifically, these are three antioxidant nutrients. So, in the next 15 to 20 minutes, we're going to go over my top three favorite antioxidants, and they happen to be melatonin, vitamin C, and glutathione. These are the ones that when I put together the topic, they just rapid fire entered into my mind. And there are countless other ones. We're going to talk about how to combat free radical damage. And I'll explain more about what that is for those who aren't familiar with the concept. And lastly, as always, I'm here to answer any of your questions, big or small. Feel free to fill up the comment section and I will try to address them as best I can during the talk. To understand what an antioxidant is and why we need them, I think it's really important to first have a discussion of what is oxidation and why it's harmful to us. Oxygen is essential for life, but in excess, like too much of a good thing, that pretty much is a universal rule, it can lead to things like respiratory distress and even death. And this happens when we breathe in too much pure oxygen at atmospheric pressure continuously for 2 days or 48 hours straight. This would almost never happen. But just saying that as much as oxygen is essential for survival, it can also be taken too far and cause damage. So, oxygen in itself is not toxic. Don't want to worry about oxygen under regular circumstances, but it can create highly reactive ions known as reactive oxygen species, and those are what's harmful. So, reactive oxygen species. This is a bit of a mouthful. 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 Reactive oxygen species. I'll just call them ROS. They consist of both free radicals and non-free radical oxygen intermediaries. These are things like hydrogen peroxide, superoxide, and the OH or hydroxyl radical. If we think back to high school chemistry, the combinations of H's and O's, often with a negative charge, will start coming to mind. So those are free radicals. The production of free radicals happens under normal conditions. Just as I live and breathe right now, they are happening. Where they happen is at every level. So the mitochondria, as they metabolize oxygen, and a quick refresher, mitochondria are the organelles that are considered the powerhouse of the cell. They produce energy in the form of ATP for us, and it's essential for normal functioning and survival. Other things like exposure to ionizing or even UV radiation, so sunlight, xenobiotics, those are foreign substances, usually chemicals, to our bodies, and many regular run-of-the-mill cellular enzymes. All of these things can also result in the formation of reactive oxygen species. But take relief in the fact that as long as the body can break them down at about the same rate as they're being created, everything is a-okay. just like any other toxin that we're exposed to. So even things that are naturally produced in the body for everyday functioning and survival can have damaging effects when they're allowed to accumulate and aren't metabolized or broken down properly. For a lot of the other talks that I've done in the last month, so things on radio frequencies and electromagnetic frequencies, and sauna therapy and heavy metals, as well as the metabolic group detox program, that's largely been focusing on external sources of toxins, more appropriately termed toxicants. But now we're kind of turning inward and looking at what we're producing inside our systems that can have harmful effect. That's not to take away from what I emphasized in the other talks, which is, ensuring that you have good quality air, water, food, and picking your personal care products carefully. So when there is an excess of ROS, reactive oxygen species, disease can occur. These range from things like a stroke and cancer, and even neurodegeneration. So Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, those types of things. When the rate of ROS exceeds the body's natural capacity to defend against them by neutralizing them with antioxidants, harm comes to us. So one major unwanted effect of too many ROSs is cellular or tissue damage. That's pretty abstract, so I'm going to try to get more specific. One example is the degradation or destruction of cellular membranes through a process called lipid peroxidation. I'll try not to get too much into the nitty-gritty scientific processes, but I just need to explain a little bit so we can truly appreciate what ROSs are. So many ROS have the ability to steal a hydrogen atom from the methylene molecule and create a carbon radical. Now, remember, we are carbon-based life forms. So when the ROS snatches a hydrogen from methylene, creating the carbon radical, it can then attack another methylene group, causing a rapid chain reaction. And this alters the fluidity, I could also say the viscosity, so how thick or runny the cell membrane is, as well as the shape of the membrane. One basic rule of physiology is that structural changes affect function. So when the structure, the fluidity, or the shape of the membrane itself changes, so does its ability to function normally. This process of oxidation from the reactive oxygen species is what causes things like oil, another carbon-based substance, to go rancid. And no one wants rancid insides, do they? So free radicals are unstable by nature because they are missing an electron. That's why they're termed free. Electrons, again, are the negatively charged component of atoms. They freely roam around seeking components to couple with. to complete them. And the bonding process can happen rapidly and unfortunately leave a path of destruction as these biochemical chain reactions happen in rapid succession. I feel like I'm beginning to sound like I'm alluding to an unhealthy relationship analogy with the free radical being unstable and seeking, a partner to bond with, but how this attraction can cause damage. So to continue with that, in swoops the antioxidants. They are the charming guy or gal who freely sacrifices an electron. So they've got some spare parts that they can give to the free radicals to protect other molecules from that bonding that the free radicals so desperately seek. So while cell membranes are not as sexy of a component as, say, mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell, they really act as a physical barrier to keep unwanted substances out and act as gatekeepers or bouncers to selectively allow the movement across the membrane and the ability or the function of the cell membrane to keep the desirable constituents in and make room for essential nutrients is really important. That it can make that distinction between what belongs inside the cell and what doesn't, what is essential and beneficial and what's waste. That said, I don't want to give the false impression that all ROSs are bad news and need to be vanquished. We do need them to a degree. In fact, they play a critical role in cell signaling and communication, and they are involved in cell and blood vessel growth, differentiation and maintenance, wound healing, nerve cell signaling, the immune response by destroying bacteria and viruses, and hormone production and metabolism. Many hormones, but an example is thyroid hormone. So how they benefit the body and the essential roles they play, we're going to leave that story to another day. But as mentioned before, we are constantly producing reactive oxygen species, ROSs, and free radicals. They are the byproducts of living, making energy for enjoyment and work, reacting to pollution. It could be air pollution, it could be polluted foods, pesticides, herbicides, the sun's rays, diseases, ill health, and carcinogens. So everyday examples might be nitrates that are found in deli meats or preserved foods, smoke or charred meat off the barbecue that many of us are enjoying with the sunny weather. Even mental and emotional stress can affect the rate that free radicals are produced. I've been trying to integrate more mention of our mental emotional state contributing to ill health or less than optimal wellness, as we are all under a lot of background stress right now with COVID-19. So with age, the body naturally produces less antioxidants. You'll notice that a lot of beauty products mention different plant extracts, vitamins, minerals, things that are, antioxidant, because they do contribute to the physical and biological signs of aging, things from wrinkles to diminished vision. But that's not all they do. Where can you get antioxidants? So now we know uh, why we should care about oxidation and free radical damage. Now I want to give you some information about how we can increase our exposure to the protective antioxidants. So food really is the number one source of antioxidants, but our needs usually far outweigh what our diet can provide. Part of this has to do with modern agricultural practices, but also the types of lifestyle that we increasingly live in the modern age. A lot of go, 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 and not a lot of time to recover. So, the environmental, physical, mental, and emotional stressors we encounter on a daily basis increases our antioxidant needs. And not only is our need greater, but so is um, our ability um, to produce them naturally. That is affected. Our need is greater, but our ability to meet that need falls short. So with food, any brightly colored fruits and vegetables, those are high in flavonoids. Those are the plant pigments. And all flavonoids are naturally anti-inflammatory and antioxidant. So for those of you who are in the audience, just throw out some ideas of what is an antioxidant fruit or vegetable. You basically won't be wrong. It's very safe to guess. So things that you might have already heard of are red wine extract and particularly red grapes. So red and purple grapes, those bright colors again, the purple and red hues, those are from flavonoids. Also, onions. All the onions, particularly yellow and red onions. So again, focusing on the color. Fresh vegetables, dark leafy greens. I feel like they can be applied to any health situation. There's never not room for dark leafy greens. Pink grapefruit. Some vegetables, so not necessarily the most eye-catching in the rainbow spectrum, but things like the cruciferous vegetables. Those are broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, Swiss chard, watercress. More niche things like beet greens, okra, spinach, everyday kind of flavoring, so garlic, herbs, fresh herbs. So these are all examples of antioxidant foods. So the food guide is very correct in emphasizing that of all the food groups, fruit and vegetable servings are top. We need the most serving of those. They provide a variety of nutrients, but they also happen to be really high in antioxidants. And then, as I alluded to earlier, I'm just going to get a little deeper with three antioxidant nutrients, and they all kind of fall in a different category, actually. So the first one is glutathione. Glutathione peroxidase happens to be an antioxidant enzyme that our body naturally produces, as well as glutathione itself. So glutathione is produced naturally or endogenously by the body, but there's a supplement called N-acetylcysteine or NAC, that is a quasi-essential amino acid. So essential amino acids are ones that we must get from our food that we don't produce. But NAC is considered quasi because sometimes under the right conditions it can be produced from methionine or phenylalanine. So NAC is a precursor to glutathione, which is a key detoxifying agent in the liver. So having a supplement of NAC can help enhance our body's natural production of glutathione, which is so important for liver health. And taking NAC is sometimes more effective actually than supplementing with glutathione itself. Glutathione generally isn't that well absorbed and it tastes rather unpleasant. There's, besides oral capsules or tablets, glutathione is something that can be nebulized. And moving into the fall, if you're looking for an immune treatment, glutathione, especially for lung conditions, can be really helpful to get the antioxidant deep into the body to the lower lung tissues directly. So nebulization is when you create a fine spray of a liquid. And we do offer that at Brio now. Another way to increase absorption is to put nutrients in a liposome. And that's like a lipid or an oil encapsulation process. These micro lipids, they increase absorption of nutrients by about 5 times. Maybe some of you have heard that turmeric, curcuma longa, the root or rhizome, is better absorbed with a bit of fat. And that has to be, that's lipid. Fat is lipid. Oil is lipid. So liposomal encapsulation increases absorption by 5 times. So you're really getting the most of your supplements. Accordingly, sometimes the liposome products will cost a little bit more, but it's worth it for 5 times absorption rate. And the liposome, the lipid encapsulation, also protects it from gastric or stomach and duodenal, so that's the beginning of your small intestine, the acids that can break it down before it gets to its target tissue. Lastly, liposomes bypass the liver. We mentioned that glutathione was a really important liver nutrient, and if you have less than ideal liver health, then if you take it orally, the liver actually might not be allowing you to extract the most out of your supplement. And when we were talking about glutathione for immune, so either taking it as a nebulized solution if you specifically have lung problems, so cough or mucus, pneumonia type of things, then you can take it by nebulization, or liposomes also, because when you take it by liposome, it gets taken up by the lymphatic system and doesn't go into the regular liver portal circulation. I think I just made up a word. Liver circulation. Circular circulation is now circulation. Okay, back on track. So when it gets taken up by the lymphatic cells, either as a liposome or as a nebulized solution, it really supercharges the immune cells, especially the lymph system that gets neglected so often. There's also antioxidant vitamins. So vitamins A, C, E. And for E, I'd always look for a natural source of vitamin E, alpha, beta, or gamma tocopherols. We're going to focus on vitamin C. I know, again, with the focus on immune health with the coronavirus, some people are really taking mega doses of vitamin C. And I've noticed that a lot of supplement companies are out of stock because the demand is so high. You might not need such a large dose for the benefits. So vitamin C is water soluble, which means that your body essentially pees out what it doesn't need. So it is something that you should be taking regularly for the benefits. But again, talking about food, vitamin C is abundant. It's not difficult to get in the diet. Things like citrus probably come to mind, cantaloupe, berries, bell peppers, again, leafy green vegetables, cauliflower, another cruciferous vegetable, basic potato, tomatoes. The vitamin C protects against oxidation. And cautioning against too much vitamin C because there's a threshold and it's a bit different for everyone, but depending on the balance, it can become pro-oxidant. If there's not enough free radicals for the vitamin C to work on, it can become a source of oxidation itself. So when people are using really big, large megadoses of vitamin C, sometimes you'll notice that you get loose stools or diarrhea. And that will, be a sign to kind of cut back so that you stay within your bowel tolerance. Not only could it become pro-oxidant instead of antioxidant, vitamin C actually has the potential to interfere with some medications. Heart medications come to mind. They increase absorption so that you don't need as large of your normal dose probably, but it can also reverse the anticoagulant or the anti-clotting effect of blood thinners, which you don't want if you're on them. And further, it can enhance iron absorption. This could be seen as a good thing if you're low in iron and you want to get the most out of your non-animal protein sources of iron. But if you're on the borderline of having an excess of iron stores, having vitamin C with iron-rich foods or iron supplements can push you over the normal range. And then too much vitamin C can also displace or flush out vitamin B12 and B9, which are also really useful and desirable. So there's a variety of interactions with pharmaceuticals and vitamins and minerals and vitamin C, and it can also affect your lab results. So leading to things like false blood sugar readings in blood and urine, and also affects some types of stool testing. So if you are someone that's taking a lot of vitamin C right now to guard against any unwanted immune disruptions, that's just something to keep in mind. Again, that theme of too much of a good thing comes to mind. So we've talked about glutathione, vitamin C just now, and then the last antioxidant that I wanted to feature is melatonin, which is technically a sleep hormone, or that's what we most closely associate melatonin with, something that gets produced by our pineal gland when the lights get low, when the sun comes down, that makes us feel relaxed and sleepy. So melatonin happens to be a free radical scavenger as well and possesses those anti-inflammatory and antioxidant actions. It not only supports the balance of circadian rhythms, so our sleep-wake cycles, but it's very versatile in the way that it can reduce oxidative stress caused by ROS, reactive oxygen species, or free radicals under a variety of circumstances, which makes it pretty unique that it's found throughout the body, especially in high concentrations in the cell, and in particular the mitochondria, the powerhouse. So it's a mitochondria targeted antioxidant, we could say. So it protects the mitochondrial DNA as well as the cell nucleus DNA, and reduces things like apoptosis. That's programmed cell death. It's a part of the life cycle of cells, but sometimes the rate or the frequency is something that's out of sync with what a healthy pattern would be. It not only scavenges the reactive oxygen species, that's melatonin actually, that we're talking about right now for those joining, but it also addresses nitrogen species. It indirectly stimulates the antioxidant enzymes and suppresses the pro-oxidant ones. So there's direct and indirect benefits from supporting your body's natural production of melatonin. So that's having a bedtime routine and making sure we get adequate sleep and supplementing if it's necessary. It also happens to chelate transition metals if there's any concerns with heavy metal toxicity. And so the ability to scavenge and sequester ROSs protects against cell damage. And this is the real value of antioxidants. I've mentioned three examples, case examples, and that is melatonin, glutathione, and vitamin C. But antioxidants consist of a variety of categories of things like amino acids. We mentioned the N-acetylcysteine for glutathione. Enzymes, we mentioned glutathione peroxidase. Minerals, selenium and zinc. Vitamins, vitamin A, C, E, etc. Plant pigments, so flavonoids, any brightly colored fruits and vegetables. Hormones, melatonin was our main example. And then there's a variety of supplements that you can purchase that combine these to create a more synergistic effect, that you can take a variety of antioxidants in smaller doses and get a bigger amplified effect, and it's also more convenient. So if we didn't have these antioxidants, our cell membranes would become rancid or rust. These are examples of processes that we can observe outside the body, which are caused by oxidation. And that same thing can happen inside, unbeknownst to our naked eye, when we have too much free radical and reactive oxygen species going unattended in the body without adequate antioxidant protection. To an extent, free radicals are essential for life. They maintain a sense of balance in many physiological processes I mentioned, but too much can damage important cells and tissues. When pro-oxidants outstrip or exceed antioxidants, oxidative stress occurs. Luckily, cells have an innate ingrown ability to protect against this damage, especially with a little help from our friends glutathione, vitamin C, and melatonin to neutralize them. So that's all I've prepared today. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment, and I would be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I hope that you learn something new. That's always, a hope that it's not just an interesting lecture, but that there's something that you take away and remember and can start applying to your daily routine.